And then last year, I think a story that broke that hit a lot of people, a lot of teams, especially in Solana, was FTX. We were, what I would say, is victims of that as well. We had funds on the exchange and we lost close to $15 million. Star Atlas is almost difficult to describe, to be honest with you. So I can start at maybe the highest level with where we really started, which is bringing AAA gaming in the form of a grand strategy, space exploration, massively multiplayer online game to Solana. Now, as I mentioned, we have a couple of different product categories and those things all come together, but philosophically speaking, what I truly believe is that beyond just the idea of gaming and entertainment, we're building a new economy, a new method for people to communicate and interact and participate in commerce from all over the world and provide these opportunities for people to create a life for themselves inside these digital realms. So you could compare that to or consider that maybe a part of the metaverse, something I'm still a big proponent of and believe will ultimately become the future of these digital worlds. But a big part for us is making sure that we can develop a sustainable ecosystem that other people can contribute to and build alongside us and co-create along with us. And it's really that reason that we're building all of these programs on chain is for the composability element. And so while we're focused on bringing this best-in-class game to market as the central attraction, ultimately the idea is that this universe gets created by everyone who participates in it. For anyone familiar with our story, we've had some phenomenal success, and then we've also taken a number of hits, especially over the last year or so. So our team has been as big as 235 people. Presently our team's around 100 to 105. The vast majority of that, I would say 80% of the company is split between engineers, and that's anything from web engineering to blockchain engineering to DevOps. And the rest of the team is really this production team that's focused either exclusively on Unreal Engine or perhaps working to some extent in our browser-based application. So this is built-in Play Canvas, but probably 40 people in the engineering camp and another 40 on the Unreal Engine side.
You had like 200 to 300 people on the team to now half of that, like a fraction of that. What happened? Can you elaborate on that?
Well, I mean, the bear market happened for one. So that was obviously a hit to user acquisition, growth of the company and to revenues. We saw a decline in treasury balances and our balance sheet as a result of correlation to mass market. And then last year, I think a story that broke, that hit a lot of people, a lot of teams, especially in Solana, was FTX. And we were, what I would say, is victims of that as well. We were using that exchange as a cash off-ramping vehicle and as not full custodian, but we would transfer funds from there to our bank accounts so that we could pay our employees. And we had funds on the exchange, and we lost close to $15 million back in November of last year. So it was a pretty big hurdle for us to have to overcome, and this year has been really tough. But our team dug in, we kept building, and we made the best of the situation. And now I think we're probably better positioned than we ever have been.
How did you get to that position? And in the past year, after losing such a significant amount of money in FTX, did you manage to raise more funds? And I wanted to ask on top of that, do you currently have any revenue?
We do, yeah, we have ongoing revenue. We had a really incredible first year, and even, so our first year was 2021, and we really launched with a white paper and a dream in January. Now, we were early adopters to Solana, but we were fortunate in that people really embraced the vision that we revealed. And so our first year of business, we did $145 million of revenue. And this was completely bootstrapped with no venture capital investment whatsoever. And then in this second year of operation, we did another $40 to $45 million of revenue. Now, it gets kind of into the caveat here, the footnotes, where a portion of that revenue was in the tokens, our Atlas token, and the rest of the revenue was in the form of USDC. And so that really catapulted us. That actually enabled us to grow quite aggressively. We went from a founding team of 4 people to those 235 people over that period. But again, with the bear market, with 2022, with declining token prices and slowing revenue, we started to get into a position where we needed to reduce expenses so that we could ensure that we were viable going forward. Really, the FTX event was more the straw that broke the camel's back. It was the timing of that, coupled with the market conditions, that led to more substantial reductions from our team. And actually, we had a 10 to 15% reduction in headcount just in January of 2023, and we forged forward. My objective was to keep as many people from the team as possible, build as much as we can, and get back to a place where we were cash flow positive. Unfortunately, we weren't able to do that over the first half of the year, and so in August, we made another 80% reduction to the internal team members. And so that lands us where we're at now, but we do generate revenue every day. We have a number of different revenue streams between asset sales, and this is any variety of asset categories in the form of NFTs, so ships and land plots on the Central Space Station. And our real business model long-term, though, is recurring revenue off of secondary marketplace transaction fees. And so we built our own marketplace from the ground up. Our users are transacting in those items. And most recently, with the release of one of our web products called Sage Labs, we've seen a marked improvement in the amount of transaction volume as well as in revenue. So we've seen a 3x increase in secondary marketplace transaction volume, and that directly contributes to our recurring revenue streams.
What role does the Star Atlas token play in the world of Star Atlas?
There's two tokens. Atlas is our in-game currency. This is a medium of exchange similar to any national currency that you would pay for goods and or services. A part of it is, well, not only an incentive structure, a kind of a bootstrapping mechanism for the economy, so that when players engage in the game and they spend time in the game and they complete certain activities, they can earn this token. But the foundation of our economy is really driven by this idea of a producer and consumer economy. So less on, say, an inflationary curve. It has less to do with something like high yield, which is what a lot of early game projects utilize to attract users. That's never been our philosophy. The producer-consumer economy implies that players are creating value. They're doing things like crafting components or other items, or they're crafting skins, and they're selling those to other players. And in addition to that, you can think of paying for services in much the way that labor markets in the world work. So if, for example, you own a fleet of ships and you don't have the time or ability to utilize all of those ships, the idea is that in the future, you can actually employ someone who is capable of utilizing the asset that you possess to go out and engage in the gameplay. This kind of gets into the topic of lending or scholarship models, but it could also just be an individual who wants to hire people, pay them real currency to utilize their assets on their behalf, as much the same way that any industrial operation would operate. So this Atlas currency is the denomination throughout the universe of Star Atlas, and whether you're paying for services or you're exchanging with other users or you're paying for convenience from another user, everybody transacts in Atlas. Polis is the governance token. There's a hierarchy of DAOs throughout the game, and I'll be kind of brief on this, but there's a Panaculum DAO, the top level DAO that people lock their tokens, they get Polis voting power, and then they can use that to effectuate change on the ecosystem as a whole. They can submit proposals and vote on those proposals, and that could lead to any number of economic changes, gameplay changes, feature development. Essentially, it's an open book for whatever anybody would like to see. They have a voice, and they also have a way to demonstrate their commitment and contribution to the ecosystem, if you will. Now, beyond that, within the game, there's sub-DAOs. There's a faction-level DAO, a regional DAO, and then local DAOs, and all of those are gameplay mechanics. So there's a political strategy that will be employed throughout the game, and people can control regions of space, they can set their own taxation rates, they can control warp lanes and warp gates and charge fees on that. And so those features are all coming later, but it's been a part of our vision since inception.
How many people are currently active players on a monthly basis? Do you have a number?
Yeah, I'll refer back to Sage Labs. This is this latest, more RTS or real-time strategy style gameplay that's in browser. We've seen, or we're seeing right now, about 2,000 daily active users in that. We've had 10,000 unique wallet connects. What I think is very promising for us is our next big release in the Unreal Engine client. This is R2.2, where we add full dedicated server support and full multiplayer support. Special mention to MetaGravity here, because we're working with them on user concurrency scaling, and we're already demoing 30,000 concurrent users in a single instance, no spatial partitioning, no sharding, no individual servers. So essentially creating a single universe in a single world with no instancing that people can join and participate in. But right now, our Unreal Engine client is seeing maybe 250 to 300 daily active users, but I think that next release is where we'll see an explosion. MetaGravity is going to be the technology that we leverage to create this unified singular world, providing agency to all of our players, but also creating a single instance and a single universe. So you won't have to worry about, am I in the same server as my friends, or do I have to get in the same group as my friends so that we can engage in the same activities? Essentially, we have replication of game state of the entire universe for any player, regardless of where they are in this universe. And they're bringing a revolutionary approach to the way that user concurrency scaling works. Rashid, their CEO and founder, that has a phenomenal background in this scaling technology, ex-CEO, CTO, and founder of Hadean. They, again, have restructured the entire formula or algorithm of how this scaling works. And to me, wanting to create the idea of the metaverse, I think it's important that everybody is able to aggregate and socialize in a single environment, not many, but a single environment. What I mean is, again, no separate servers. Now, I would clarify, and my belief is that there will be multiple gateways to the metaverse, people developing different games or different experiences or different entry points. But for us, anybody that's in Star Atlas, they're going to be all on the same server, and we won't have any of this, again, instancing. You can fly through atmosphere, for example, go directly into space, and players that are maybe on a nearby space station will see those ships, and they'll know that these are real players out there piloting those ships. I think that's very powerful, and I'm thinking about the commerce centers of the future in central space stations, where you could have tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands, or millions of people running around in one location in a map, and that's never been done before. In fact, we're likely to be breaking records with 30,000 concurrent users in a single instance. This has never been done before. The largest scaling we've seen to date is in the 12 to 14,000 user range.
Is this among blockchain-based games or just any game?
This is any game. A game like Fortnite, for example, obviously built on Unreal Engine. It's produced by Epic. It's the same technology that we use. It has a maximum player count of 100 players in a single server. And that's true for most games, by the way, because this gets really complex especially when you have high graphical fidelity. I'm not sure if you saw my presentation, but if you look at the level of detail, buttons and pins and waving hair and all of the detail that's on every individual character, well, that needs to be replicated every time you add a user, and in fact, multiplicatively so. So when you add 2 users, every user needs to be replicated 2 times. And so 1 is being able to replicate and represent those users, and then 2 is being able to share that network state so that everybody can operate with low latency. The talk was about everything that we've been doing over the last 3 years that is genuinely only possible on Solana. There's the 4 different product categories that I highlighted. Unreal Engine, that's really our cinematic quality open world MMO. We have a web-based client called Sage, Star Atlas Golden Era, and this is more real RTS top-down. Gameplay mechanics, it focuses on territory control, extraction, crafting, commerce, and a singular persistent PvP arena. And then we have a mobile companion app. Now the companion app we call Star Atlas Crew, and this is a bit of a spin on the move to earn segment of the industry. In our case, it's move to progress, and it's based on using a crew member, going on a walk, run, or bicycle ride. And when you do that, you level up your character and you collect loot. And that same crew member is able to be slotted into ships, either in labs or in Unreal Engine, in much the same way you would configure a loadout for any character in any game. And that crew member now contributes to the ship stats. So if you have a higher level crew member, your ship can perform slightly better than somebody who does not. And what's really cool about all of this, again, is we're building as much of the logic as possible directly on Solana. And when you do that, it helps us accomplish that shared network state. In fact, somebody that is engaged in Sage, and say they place a claim stake down so that they can mine resources. Well, that claim stake is replicated in Unreal Engine in the same location using the same coordinates that are all stored on-chain. And all of the resources, these are all SFT assets that are interchangeable. If you're harvesting resources from Sage, you can consume those resources in Unreal. And then the last part was really the build program. So we have an innovative approach to the way that we provide access to both IP and tooling. We have an open access IP policy that we launched in April. People are able to use a repository to look at brand assets or art assets, logos, and they can create their own business with that. They can commercialize that business. They can monetize that business. They're able to generate $1 million in revenue without paying a single cent in royalty fees to us. Now, beyond the $1 million, or above the $1 million, we have royalty fees that range from 3 to 10% of revenue. It's pretty favorable. Our goal with this is to enable people and empower people to build around Star Atlas. And we've already had, just since April, 66 applications and approved vendors through the program with some really cool, innovative stuff like 3D printing models of our ships and selling those. And then the build program for developers is all about access to our programs. We've released 13 programs, and this includes things like TypeScript bindings and IDLs and program IDs and data access, APIs, and documentation. And so what we're telling people is you have the power to build your own application that seamlessly integrates into Star Atlas. That could be DeFi, that could be an automation service, that could be your own front end and your own user interface of Star Atlas itself. And all of the game logic is already available to them. And we've already seen 16,000 downloads of our various programs just since October 3rd of this year.
How do you see the integration of blockchain technology revolutionizing the gaming industry, and what specific advantages does it bring to the gaming experience for players?
Our perspective, our philosophy is that the biggest benefits of blockchain are not intrinsically just in, say, NFTs or even the cryptocurrency. We do both of those. NFTs provide a true sense of ownership to the player. They actually possess their assets and they're free to trade those, which is unconventional. The traditional model is terms of service expressly prohibit you buying or selling or trading any of the items that you collect from the game. And we turn that on its head. We say, here's a marketplace. If you put time into your character, you can sell that character. Entirely up to you. It was your time, your effort that got you to that point. The cryptocurrencies, we talked about those, Atlas and Polis, and the impact that those have on the ecosystem and the economy. But our perspective is that this on-chain logic and the idea of composability is what will elevate us, because we're empowering a global population to build alongside us. Our goal is to create a best-in-class game and an entertainment experience that brings people, the users, the customers, the community to Star Atlas, and then that becomes an opportunity for any other developer who wants to maybe build DeFi or any of these other items that I mentioned. They have a captive audience. And I see this as mutually beneficial across all three stakeholders. So us as a company, the users, and the external creators. External creators get to monetize whatever they build. The users get access to new services or products that perhaps we don't have the time to build or is not in our immediate roadmap. And we get to see this innovation and enhancement to our ecosystem in a much faster pace than if we were building everything ourselves.
Could you provide an overview of the key features and mechanics that set Star Atlas apart from other blockchain-based games?
Well, there's a lot to this question. We are early stage development now. We've been building for 3 years. Any AAA or AAA beyond game development is going to take 8 years, 10 years. I'll reference Starfield here. Their CEO Bethesda mentioned Starfield was a game that was in the making for 25 years. Now, this was conceptual to them early on, but it took them 10 years to build this game and actually bring it to market. This is not the approach that we take. Our approach is we're going to build small segments of the game and we'll release those to you. And through time, we add to those. We increase the mechanics, we enhance the economy, we bring entirely new gameplay modalities out. And so the current state is what we call the showroom in Unreal Engine, and you can do things like time trial races or single player ground hover racing, and both of these have leaderboards. We have a dogfighting arena. We have a number of experimental game modes and maps that people can explore. But the next thing that's coming in 2.2 is this competitive combat ground racing loop. And our thoughts are that this next big feature release is where we really have a complete version of the game that focuses on racing that really, in and of itself, could be a standalone game. There are some great racing games out there, Forza, for example. And within our gameplay, you have ship configuration, you have ship mastery, where you're leveling up the ship that you're flying and you're collecting exclusive loot as you do that. The ship configuration, where you can change out components and modules and those crew member. And so the other cool part about this is, amongst many other different modes of play, is again the combat element of it. I've often described this as kind of a pod racing or maybe next generation Mario Kart. So you're swapping to your tractor beam and you're picking up boosts like ammo and shields and health, and you're able to shoot at other ships and disable them and take them off the map. And we run big tournaments with this, and the goal is to be able to support up to 100 players per race. But the surrounding map, which has a stadium, could see 10,000 players watching live these races take place. We think there's big potential in that simply because things like streaming games on Twitch or on YouTube is only growing. And if you're a gamer, perhaps it's better to sit live in the audience and watch this event take place versus watching somebody's screen share of the event happening.
Solana is known for requiring specialized hardware and being expensive to run a node. There's other criticisms involving that it being a VC chain, VC coin. What are your thoughts around that, all the FUD surrounding Solana?
We've been staunch proponents and advocates for Solana from very early on. We started investigating Solana back in 2020, mid-2020, when we really conceptualized the idea of Star Atlas. We were early adopters, early pioneers, and we worked through some of the difficult days where the infrastructure and the technology just simply didn't exist. But I will tell you this, the progress of development and innovation on Solana is unparalleled, and I've been in this space for 10 years. I've been involved in the launch of virtually every trend and theme in crypto since 2013. I was mining Ethereum from day one on my home computer. So I've seen the technology evolve, I've seen the technology progress, and I have not ever seen anything like the power of Solana to attract developers, to attract innovators, to create culture, and to bring people together to build on what I believe is the most scalable network to exist to date.
Do you not share the same thoughts around any other chain? For instance, Ethereum, right now it has the most liquidity, most developers. And since you've been one of the early users and adopters of the technology, what are your thoughts around surrounding Ethereum?
I'm not a maximalist in any way. I think Ethereum has its use case. I think it was very early to the concept of being a smart contract platform. You're right, there's a lot of liquidity there. In fact, a lot of people wanted us to go to Ethereum early on. However, for us, there's a number of benefits to Solana, just purely the scalability of the network, the transaction throughput, the low transaction cost, and the low latency. These are all things that are essential when you're building game logic on chain. And just as one example, Sage Labs, I'll point back to again, we're doing about 2 million transactions per day. We do more transactions in Sage Labs than Ethereum does on a daily basis. And
what are those transactions, 2 million?
2 million. So
daily?
Daily.
Okay.
Yeah, so this is all of the logic. So fleet management, inventory management, resource extraction systems, crafting systems, coordinate and movement systems, your character, XP and progression systems, your account creation.
Everything gets stored on chain?
Everything gets stored on chain. And it moves at the speed of light. That's the thing. We're able to do 2 million transactions per day, and our users aren't draining their bank accounts to make all of those transactions. An average user does 1,000 transactions per day.
And how much does that cost, 1,000 transactions?
Probably less than 10 cents.
What inspired the team to choose Solana as the underlying blockchain infrastructure for Star Atlas? Why not other chains?
It was, maybe call it a lucky guess, but I could see the early momentum in Solana, again, going all the way back to 2020. And we were analyzing the various chains that were out there. Solana stood out as the best. Now, there's one other component to this, and a little technical, but Solana is built on Rust. And with Rust, much like C++, which is used in a lot of game development, you have the ability to create these complex, smart game architecture, and it is compatible essentially out of the box with the network that we're using, with the protocol that we're using, which is, again, Solana. And so a lot of our engineers are Rust engineers, and they understand how to parallelize systems, and it's worked. It's worked really well for us. I think with the conference and with the presentations that are going on, we're seeing how this ecosystem is exploding. As I said, we're seeing more innovative development on Solana than virtually every other chain. I think it's debatable if Ethereum has the most developers now. I think Solana might be taking the lead. And as people are able to see this, and that information gets distributed out to a wider audience, of course, people are going to do what they do, which is, again, speculate on the token. But I think it's an incredibly promising future for Solana. I genuinely believe that gaming is going to be a catalyst for growth in blockchains in the future. And the reason for that is, historically, the attraction to crypto, to blockchain, has largely been around speculation. ICOs or IEOs, or just trading Bitcoin and DeFi, for example. These are all applications that cater to someone who looks to speculate on financials. But gaming is an industry that eclipses both movies and music combined. $200 billion a year industry. And why is that? Because it's an interactive entertainment experience. People want to spend hours and hours playing video games. And so my belief is that as we see Web3 gaming evolve, and as we deliver products that are attractive to the mainstream, we will see a massive influx and inflow of users into the space. And in particular, if you follow the philosophy of Star Atlas, where we're creating opportunities for builders, creators, innovators, and gamers, and entrepreneurs, well, there's an attractive reason to get involved. And so I'm not necessarily a big proponent of abstracting the blockchain away. I actually believe my ethos is that there are tangible benefits to self-sovereign wealth and decentralization and things like Bitcoin. And I want our users to understand what that means and how they can benefit from it. So it's just to say that I don't really follow the philosophy of, hey, we want users to use our product and not even know that they're ever interacting with the blockchain. I actually think it's important that they know that they're interacting with the blockchain and why.
What challenges are lying ahead for Star Atlas?
I'm sure there are many. It's the unknown unknowns that you always have to look out for, but there's no way to predict those things. So as of right now, momentum strong, velocity strong, development is moving forward. There's a lot of enthusiasm around our ecosystem. If I would try to pin it down, I would say there's a tremendous amount of uncertainty around producing a very high quality game like the one that we've embarked upon. And so who knows what happens in the future. It could be economic collapse globally, right? And the impact and ripple effect that has on us. It could be people don't like the gameplay modes that we roll out. Maybe racing isn't the hit. Maybe we took the wrong direction as a starting point. But I think it's just understanding that we have a long roadmap ahead of us, and this is a capital-intensive business, and so we have to manage around that.
Do you have any final words?
I only have final words for what we're doing at Star Atlas, and again, I'm extremely excited about the future that we have ahead of us. I think we've just been through the absolute trenches, survival mode, getting through the past year, but coupled with our presentation today and everything that we presented and everything that we have coming online, I think it's an incredibly bright future for us.